I would guess that most of you have been through some kind of change in the last few years. Am I right? Maybe for you it was a change in your job situation, your health, or your relationships. Or maybe you're on the precipice of change right now, wondering what's next. And it's not just in our personal lives. Change is happening everywhere. It's in our systems, our culture, and our technology. And let's be honest, sometimes change can feel exciting. Other times it can feel messy and really intense. Change doesn't just disrupt our routines, it reaches deep into our core and activates something within us that's instinctive and untamed. Change awakens the animal inside us. What if I told you there are 4 main animal archetypes? And when you know which one shows up for you, then you can lead change with more courage, more compassion, and more purpose. I created this archetype system after over 20 years implementing change and digital transformation for Fortune 500 companies. I was really intrigued because I noticed similar patterns across different teams. So I wrote a book about it, and I've been all over the country leading workshops with this framework. I've also learned from my own experiences navigating major career transitions and health challenges how change deeply affects us, and even how our environment plays a role. Now I want you to think of a change that you recently faced, or maybe one that you're going through right now. Perhaps you moved to a new city, or you're figuring out what your next chapter looks like, or you're building a business, or learning a new skill. You got it? As I explain these animal archetypes, I want you to think about which one feels the most like you, your go-to mode when change shows up. Okay, let's find out. When change knocks on your door, are you a coyote, a moose, a bear, or an ostrich? And here's something important. Every one of these animals has 2 sides. There's a strength side, and there's a shadow side. So keep both sides in mind, the part that helps you move forward, and the part that might hold you back. As Carl Jung said, only at night is there no shadow. Let's start with the coyote. Coyotes thrive in uncertainty. They've learned to adapt in cities, mountains, and deserts. So if your change animal is a coyote, it means you're a go-getter and you embrace change. You don't want to fall behind the curve, so you face change head-on. Your shadow side is that you might overlook some details or get burned out. Does that sound familiar? I remember working with a coyote. She was excited about change and dove right in. She was up at 2 a.m. pitching ideas, always 10 steps ahead. And she'd say things like, "Let's fail fast and disrupt the status quo." That was after she had like 5 espressos. Sometimes she moved too fast, and not everyone could keep up. Her strength, agility. Her shadow side was being a bit overzealous at times. But when she intentionally slowed down, she could reconnect to purpose and values. She would check in, bring others along and get their inputs, and really think about the problems they were trying to solve. That's why you need to understand your shadow side. Otherwise, you might end up like Wile E. Coyote, going too far too fast, only to find out you're going in the wrong direction. So for the coyotes out there, go ahead and be bold. You might just need to pause, ground yourself, and set realistic expectations. Let's move on to the moose. Imagine a moose running through the forest with its giant antlers. What happens? Inevitably, it gets stuck, and the antlers get locked up and entangled in trees and other obstacles. So if your change animal is a moose, it means every time you try to make progress, you hit a wall. Ow, my antlers! That happens to a lot of us. We want to move forward, but we face real barriers. And moose don't always ask for help. But that's the one thing you might need to do, because it's really hard to get unstuck on our own. I've met many a moose, and I've been one myself. There was one moose I worked with. She wanted to contribute and make an impact, but she wasn't sure how. She didn't have access to the right tools and resources, and her manager was very busy. After a while, she started feeling a little lost and discouraged. She almost gave up. But luckily, she found another path and asked someone else for help. See, moose are strong, but the shadow side can appear when they start to feel powerless and complacent. So if you're out there and you're feeling like a moose, think about where you're getting stuck and what resources are available. And when your antlers lock up, the tendency might be to push even harder. And that's not going to do much when you're running into a brick wall. It might be better instead to take a breath and look at the bigger picture. Reframe what stuck means. It doesn't have to define your whole story. Next, we have the bear. Bears are rational. They like to hibernate, to evaluate a situation before making any moves. So don't poke the bear and rush them. Doesn't work. If you're a bear, you're probably wondering, what's the cost of change? What's the impact? What are the consequences? Let's think through this more. Your shadow side, analysis, paralysis. Let me tell you about a bear I know. He's thoughtful and practical, and when his team decided to implement change, the bear was like, whoa, slow down, coyotes. What are we doing? We need a plan. And he was right. But the bear had to learn to balance planning with execution. So if you're a bear, go ahead and weigh your options. Just be mindful when you're trading speed for certainty. And what helps is establishing clear, shared goals, breaking them down into actionable steps, and testing and learning to take pressure off having a perfect plan. And finally, our beloved ostrich. When it comes to change, the proverbial ostrich prefers to bury its head in the sand, hoping that change goes away. So if you're an ostrich, you might be thinking, I just don't want to deal with this right now. So you disengage, you distract yourself, maybe you hide from change. And these are valid coping mechanisms when we feel overwhelmed. But they can also lead to missed opportunities. Someone recently confessed to me that he's an ostrich. He had spent 10 years in the same role, and he knew the job inside and out. But things were changing. He had to learn new tools, new processes, new technology. It was a really big shift. Well, actually, he used another S word to describe it. And he'd say things like, I can't be bothered with that right now. I'm sticking to what I know. Why fix what's not broken? But over time, the ostrich felt left behind as the rest of the team adapted, and it became harder to catch up. You see, the ostrich's shadow side is clinging onto comfort and safety just a little too tightly and getting tunnel vision. Well, what's their strength? If you're an ostrich, you're probably really good at focusing on what you know, protecting your energy, and holding on to tradition. So if you're an ostrich, no judgment, we've all been there. Try to understand what you're avoiding and why. And really just get curious about your triggers. Or you can leverage your strength. Maybe you do need to conserve your energy right now and focus on other priorities. And maybe there is something worth preserving about tradition. So what do you think is your primary change animal? And before you answer, let me see if I can make this even easier to understand. You're at a crossroads. If you're the coyote, you're going to sprint as fast as you can. If you're the moose, you're kind of stuck in the mud for now. If you're the bear, you're studying the map and you're planning your route. And if you're the ostrich, you're like, maybe later. And you take the same familiar road. So what's your first reaction? Oh. Excellent. You know, what's interesting is that I think you might be thinking you're a hybrid, possibly. Very possible. Like a bear with feathers. You contemplate and then you withdraw. Or like a coyote-bear blend. You jump in, then you step on the brakes. Yes, we can be a mix of all the animals, but one tends to lead the way, so I keep that in mind. And it can be situational, it can be based on your environment and your life stage. So these aren't boxes to put yourself in. They're more like mirrors for self-reflection. You know, it's really interesting when I use this archetype system with teams, we learn a lot about where people are and what they might need. And we even learn about relationship dynamics and perceptions. So, for example, you might think you're being rational like the bear, but someone else might perceive you as rushing into things like the coyote. So our change animals help us become more aware of ourselves and our interactions with others. There's no right and there's no wrong, but often there's a choice. And we can learn from each other. We can have compassion. And the hard part is that we can take accountability. So here's your challenge. The next time you're at a crossroads or dealing with change, pause and ask, which animal is driving right now? And then ask, is this helping me or holding me back? Do I want to stay where I am, shift direction or perspective, soften my approach, slow down, speed up, or even speak up? Because change is wild, but it can lead to something better, something new and different. We can learn to tame our change animals. And maybe you'll not only find your way, you'll light the path for others too. Thank you.